Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. This evening's reciters are Sailesh Prabhuji for English and Hemangi Mataji for Sanskrit. They will be reading from Canto 3, Chapter 20, verses 36 to 53. Thank you. Mataji, would you start with invocation as well, please, 3 times? Thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 36. Naikatre jayati shalini pada padma jnatya muhukara talena patat patangam madhyam vishidati brihatsthana bharatitam sante vadishtir amala shushika samuha.
O beautiful woman, when you strike the bouncing ball against the ground with your hand again and again, your lotus feet do not stay in one place. Pressed by the weight of your full-grown breasts, your waist becomes fatigued, and your clear vision grows dull, as it were. Pray braid your comely hair.
Iti sayantim satyam asura pramadayatim pralobhayantim jagruhu matva mudatiyastriyam.
The Asuras, clouded in their understanding, took the evening twilight to be a beautiful woman showing herself in her alluring form, and they seized her.
Prahasya bhava gabiram jigratyatmanam atmana kantya sasarja bhagavana gandharva apasrasham ganam.
With a laugh full of deep significance, the worshipful Brahma then evolved by his own loveliness, which seemed to enjoy itself by itself. The hosts of Gandharvas and Asparas.
Sorry. Vaishasharjatanum tamvai jyotsna kanti matim priyam taevam cha jadadu priya vishwasho puragama.
After that, Brahma gave up that shining and beloved form of moonlight. Vishwasu and other Gandharvas gladly took possession of it.
Text 40. Shristva bhuta pisacham cha bhagavana atma tandrina digvasaso mukta keshan vikshya chamilayat trisho.
The glorious Brahma next evolved from his sloth, the ghosts and Finns, but he closed his eyes when he saw them stand naked with their hair scattered.
Excuse me, sorry about this. Text 41. Jagristat vishatam tam Drishpanakyam tanu prabho Nindram nindriya vikledo. I'm so sorry. Yaya bhuteshu deshyate yeno chistam dashayanti pam unmadam prachakshati.
The ghosts and goblins took possession of the body thrown off in the form of yawning by Brahma, the creator of the living entities. This is also known as the sleep which causes drooling. The hobgoblins and gods attack men who are impure, and their attack is spoken of as insanity.
Text 42. Ujaswatam manyamana atmanam bhagavan vaja sadyam ganan pitraganan parokshena just Prabhu.
Recognizing himself to be full of desire and energy, the worshipful Brahma, the creator of the living entities, evolved from his own invisible form, from his navel, the hosts of Sadhyas and Pitas.
Text 43. Ta atma sargam tam kayam pitara pratipedire satyebhyascha pitrabhyascha kavayo yat vitanvate.
The Pitas themselves took possession of the invisible body, the source of their existence. It is through the medium of this invisible body that those well versed in the rituals of oblations to the sadhyas and pitas in the form of their departed ancestors on the occasion of Shraddh.
Text 44. Siddhim vidyadharam shaiva virodhanena sajrijat tebhyo adata tam atmanam antardhanyakyam adbhutam.
Then Lord Brahma, by his ability to be hidden from vision, created the Siddhas and the Vidyadharas and gave them that wonderful form of his known as the Antardhana.
Text 45. Sakinaran kim purusham pratyamyena sajat prabhu manayan atmanatmanam atmabhasam vilokayan.
One day, Brahma, the creator of the living entities, beheld his own reflection in the water, and admiring himself, he evolved Kimpurusas as well as Kinnaras out of that reflection.
Te tu taj jagrahu rupam tyaktvam yat parameshthina mithuni bhuya gayantas tam avashashi karmapi.
The Kimpurushas and Kinnaras took possession of that shadowy form left by Brahma. That is why they and their spouses sing in his praises by recounting his exploits at every daybreak.
Text 47. Dehe navai bhagavata shayano bahu chintaya sarge anupashchite krodhan utsa sarja hatatvapu.
Once Brahma lay down with his body stretched at full length, he was very concerned that the work of creation had not proceeded apace, and in a sullen mood he gave up that body too.
Text 48. Ye aheyatmana atmabhutakesha ahayaste anga jagnire sarpa prasapata kuru nagabhogoru kandara.
O dear Vidura, the hair that dropped from that body transformed into snakes, and even while the body crawled along with its hands and feet contracted, there sprang from it ferocious serpents and nagas with their hoods expanded.
Satmanam manyamamana kritakrityam ivatmabhu tadmanum sasajante manasa loka bhavanana.
One day, Brahma, the self-born, the first living creature, felt as if the object of his life had been accomplished. At that time, he evolved from his mind the Manus, who promote the welfare activities of the universe.
Text 50. Devyam sasrajat swiyam puranam purusham atmavam tan drishtva pura shrishta prashasam shu prajapatim.
The self-possessed creator gave them his own human form. On seeing the Manus, those who had been created earlier, the demigods, the Gandharvas, and so on, applauded Brahma, the Lord of the universe.
Aho etad jagat shrishta sukratam bhatate kritam pratishtita kriya yasmin shakham anam adamhe.
They prayed, O Creator of the universe, we are glad. What you have produced is well done. Since ritualistic acts have now been established soundly in this human form, we shall all share the sacrificial oblations.
Text 52. Tapasa vidyaya yukto yogena shushamadina rishim rishikesha sajarja bhimata prajaha.
Having equipped himself with austere penance, adoration, mental concentration, and absorption in devotion, accompanied by passion, and having controlled his senses, Brahma, the self born living creature, evolved great sages as his beloved sons.
Text 53. Tebhyas chaikaikasa swashya tehashyamam adaja aja yattat samadhi yogardi tapo vidya viraktima.
To each one of these sons, the unborn creator of the universe gave a part of his own body, which was characterized by deep meditation, mental concentration, supernatural power, austerity, adoration, and renunciation.
Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport of the third canto, 20th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Conversation between Maitreya and Vidura. Thank you, dear devotees, and apologies for any mistakes. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Himangi Mataji and Prabhuji, for the beautiful recitations. Thank you. So, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Whilst waiting for Madan Prabhuji to join us, I'll recite the Mangala Charan prayer. You can all join me behind muted mics. Let's put our hands together. Let's pray very sincerely to their lordships. ॐ ज्ञानातिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं सद्वैतं सवधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपदान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता राधाकान्ता नमोऽस्तु ते तप्त काञ्चना गौरङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरा भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा Thank you very much, dear devotees. So I was just looking at the participants list, and I don't think Madan Prabhu has joined us yet. So whilst waiting for Prabhuji to join us, what we can do is to read the verses that we're going to discuss today, which are 38 to 42. So thank you, Jyoti Mataji, for sharing those verses with us. Here we are. Thank you so much. So any volunteers who would like to read the Sanskrit and the translation, please? Okay, so I'll do the Sanskrit for verse number 38. Prahasya bhava gambhiram jigran. Sorry, the verses keep moving. Okay. Jigrantyatmanam atmana kantya sasrajya bhagavan gandharva pasram ganan. Any volunteers for the translation?
Mataji, I can read.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Hare Krishna translation. With a laugh full of deep significance, the worshipful Brahma then evolved by his own loveliness, which seemed to enjoy itself by itself, the host of Gandharvas and Apsaras. Purport. The musicians in the upper planetary systems are called Gandharvas, and the dancing girls are called Apsaras. After being attacked by the demons and evolving a form of a beautiful woman in the twilight, Brahma next created Gandharvas and Apsaras. Music and dancing employed in sense gratification are to be accepted as demoniac. But the same music and dancing, when employed in glorifying the Supreme Lord as Kirtana, are transcendental, and they bring about a life completely fit for spiritual enjoyment.
Thank you very much, Jyoti Mataji. So nicely recited. Thank you. I think Madan Prabhu has now joined us. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Danvat
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So
Jai.
whilst waiting for you to join us, Prabhuji, I've recited the Mangala Charan prayer.
Okay.
And also verse number 38 has been read. So over to you, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all so much, and my apologies. I just landed home 2 minutes ago, so you can see that I'm not even fully dressed. But yes, I think by the mercy of Krishna, I have been able to join you, and I'm hoping to serve you by today's class. So we'll just do the invocation. ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, would you like to share your screen?
Yes, I can share my screen, Jyoti Mataji.
I'll
Thank
stop
you.
sharing now.
Yeah. Thank you. Shri Kishore Mataji, how many verses have we completed? You said for 40, or is it?
Yes, we've just read verse number 38, the Sanskrit, the translation, and the purport. Only
Okay.
verse number 38. Thank
Only
you.
verse number 38. Okay, fine. I think today we will probably read all the verses, and then we can have a discussion. So let me go to verse 39. So would somebody like to read the Sanskrit and the translation? Or I can read the Sanskrit, and maybe I can ask one of you to read the translation.
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji, Krish Prabhu.
Thank you. Visarasaistanam tam vejotsnam kanti matim priyam taev chadudu apritya Vishwavasu Purogmaha. Translation. After that, Brahma gave up that shining and beloved form of moonlight. Vishwasu and other Gandharvas gladly took possession of it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Would somebody like to read text number 40?
I can read English, Prabhuji.
Okay, so I'll read the Sanskrit then. Stushva bhuta pishachamscha bhagavanatman matandriya dikva saso mukta keshan vikshya chami layad kritrisho.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The glorious Brahma next evolved from his sloth, the ghost and faints, but he closed his eyes when he saw them stand naked with their hair scattered. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Mataji, would you also like to read the purport?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you. Ghosts and mischievous hobgoblin are also the creations of Brahma. They are not false. All of them are meant for putting the conditioned soul into various miseries. They are understood to be the creation of Brahma under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Would somebody like to read text 41? All right. So I'll read the Sanskrit and I'll invite one of you to read the English. Jagrihustad visrishtam tham jrimbarnak sakyam tanum prabho nidramendriya vikledo yaya bhuteshu drishyate yeno cheshtan dharshayanti tamunmadham prachakshate. Would somebody like to read the translation?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The ghosts and goblins took possession of the body thrown off in the form of yawning by Brahma, the creator of living entities. This is also known as the sleep which causes drooling. The hobgoblins and ghosts attack men who are impure, and their attack is spoken of as insanity. Purport. The disease of insanity or being haunted by ghosts take place in an unclean state of existence. Here it is clearly stated that when a man is fast asleep and saliva flows from his mouth and he remains unclean, ghosts then take advantage of his unclean state and haunt his body. In other words, those who drool while sleeping are considered unclean and are subject to be haunted by ghosts or to go insane. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Madhvi Mataji.
Yeah.
And the last verse for today. Urjasvantam manyamana atmanam bhagavanajah sadhyan ghanan pitra ganan pirokshena srijat prabhu. Who would like to read this?
May I, Prabhuji? Thank
Yes,
you.
Mataji. Thank you.
Recognizing himself to be full of desire and energy, the worshipful Brahma, the creator of the living entities, evolved from his own invisible form, from his navel, the hosts of sadhyas and pitas.
Thank you so much. And my sincere apologies because I had asked you to read the Sanskrit version, then I realized that I have only kept the Devanagari on. And that may have, may have made it a bit difficult for some of you to say yes to reading in Sanskrit. So let's go to the 38. And before that, maybe it's a good idea to look at where we are. So the last time we met, we spoke about, chapter 20 and how, the slokas 16 to 53 is focused on Brahma's creation. So Brahmaji has already created the prison, so to speak. So the he created the five ignorances, and then he's created day and night, and then he's also created the the three modes. All of that has really come into picture, and also the material elements. So in a way, the prison, the universal prison that we are all like residing in today, has already been prepared by Brahma. So essentially, from verse 16 onwards, what he's doing is he's creating prisoners. Because at the end of the day, while we are all part of the material world, we all are prisoners, and it's only we all need to aspire to get out of this prison and go to the spiritual world, and Krishna consciousness is the path that helps us to get there. So, if you have to look at verses 19 to 21, so we'll just look at what are some of the entities that Brahmaji has created. So he's created the yakshas and the rakshasas. And do we know what is associated with yakshas and rakshasas? We heard that last time, but do you know what signifies, or what did Brahma discard to create the yakshas and the rakshasas? Any guesses? It is night. So the creation, so when he created Yakshas and Rakshasas, they embrace the night, and then night is a time when the demonic like nature is like at its like most intense. It is also the time of hunger and thirst, and and this is what like is the first like aspect that gets created. So the and the yakshas and the rakshasas, they take on the qualities of the night. So as we go through Brahma's creation, it's also we also hear a lot about his discarding of his body, and and what Prabhupada says here and is that we should not think of discarding the body as like a death, but it's more of a discarding of a mentality. So as we go through each of these creation, we also see that when Brahmaji, when he releases, when he discards any of his bodies, it's just that he's getting rid of the mentality, and that is really so important for us as well, because we have so much of anarthas, and as we have come into Krishna consciousness, what we really are trying to do is to become better versions of ourselves. We are trying to improve, purify our heart. Our heart is so impure. It has so many desires. It has a lot of lust. It has greed, anger, and many times you find yourself not very happy with who you are as a person, and you really want to find a way by which you want to really grow, mature, and become more spiritually aware and come closer to Krishna. So we are constantly in this process of purification, and we are at various stages. And as we go through Brahmaji's creation, it's also good to like remind ourselves what is the mentality that Brahmaji is like through discarding, and what does it really mean for us. So here, 19 to 21 is all about yakshas and rakshasas, which means it's about night, and then suddenly we find that Brahmaji in the next verse becomes very effulgent, and then he creates the day, and that's embraced by the devas. So the devatas are the get created. And then for a long time, for a number of verses, there is the creation of the demons or the asuras, and we have seen how they are so lustful, and they are so and we saw the last time that they're so deluded by lust that they don't really, their intelligence is completely clouded, and they are not able to make any decisions at all, to the extent that they run in their lustful spirit. They also like run after their own father, that's Brahmaji. And then and Brahmaji is and that's when Brahmaji like reaches to the Lord, and we will talk about that in a little just a little while. And then he creates the twilight, and twilight is the intersection between day and night, and it's also associated with the mode of passion. And the asuras and the demons, what they think of the evening twilight as a as a woman, and they look at like all the they get enamored by the by the physical aspects of the body. Although we do know that physical beauty is very temporal. It's very temporary, and we can see that in our own selves. As we are young, when we are young, we are more virile, we are more strong, we look more handsome or beautiful. We have a black hair, for example. And then as we grow older, we start like fading away, and wrinkles start coming in, and many of us feel very worried about it. And because the world places so much of an emphasis on physical beauty, and while it's okay to want to look well groomed and beautiful, but that should not really take so much of our time. So and today the world requires us to be very very well groomed, clean, and beautiful. So I was just like traveling in this very very crowded compartment. I was traveling from Reading, and there was this man who had entered, and he was in the he was you could see that he was quite shabby. And then he was begging for like some loose change, and I'm sure we probably have seen some of that ourselves. So it was very interesting to see how everyone reacts very differently. So because you can see that everyone else is more or less well groomed, and they are very clean, and you could see this man who's very very shabbily dressed, who's not really caring about how he looks. And we don't really know why. It's possibly because because everyone has a story, and we do not really know what this like person's story is. But then you see how unaccepted he is, because the moment he speaks, you could see that everyone casts an eye on him, and then they look in some other direction. So clearly he's not wanted there, and they don't have a choice but to bear with him, because we are all in this prison, which is the train, which is a moving train. We can't get out of that. So the emphasis on physical beauty is so much, and in these verses, the twilight woman, the asuras, like look at all their physical, all her physical attributes. And as we end, then we come to 38 and 39. Okay, so the demons, they have assumed they have taken that lustful like desire, and that's where verse 37 ends. And 38, which is what we are talking about today, is about creation of the Gandharvas and the Apsaras. We'll talk a little bit about them. And then the Bhutas and the Pishachas, and then there is just a reference to Sadyas and Pitras, although we will not talk of the second verse, which describes them, because that will be done in the next class. So what we will do, and as we do this, and as we go through these other entities, it's also good to reflect on what is the mood of Brahma, what is the qualities that we can think about. So let's start here. So with a laugh full of deep significance. So this is very important. And can you see his mood? So he has just like created the the demons, and then you can see all that is happening with the Twilight Woman, and this is the time when Brahmaji himself was very, very fearful. And now you can see that there is a shift in his mood as well. So he's now and he's doing this all on the instructions of the Lord. And with a laugh full of deep significance, he evolved by his own loveliness. So he creates something which seems to enjoy itself by itself, the host of Gandharvas and Apsaras. Now, who are the Gandharvas? So the Gandharvas, Prabhupada says, are the musicians. So all the everything to do with arts and culture that we, interests us, all the kirtans, all the songs, all the bhajans, all the gopi geets, all that is attributed to the Gandharvas. And the dancing girls, and we have seen, we ourselves dance, and whenever we hear the kirtan, whenever we are in the Mangalacharan or in the temple or in any Harinam, you can see how the brahmacharis and the matajis and the prabhujis, everyone gets really, really very attractive, and that's really the attractive potency of Krishna consciousness, because these are sounds for the soul. They are sounds for because they are not really sounds necessarily just for your material senses, but then they really connect with your heart, and you can really realize, and you can it's almost like feeling that seed of bhakti, like as you listen to this music. And what also Prabhupada says here is that music and dancing employed in sense gratification ought to be accepted as demonic. So today we do spend a lot of time on music and dance, and there are many concerts that are going on. I myself have learned Bharatnatyam many years ago. So when we so the question is, we spend so much of our lives listening to music, and we have many choices of music that we listen to. Some of us listen to reggae, some of us listen to like rock. And I was born, I listened to a lot of like pop. I used to love, like Michael Jackson, Madonna, like at a point of time. It's not that I don't like them now, because you can't, because they are very, very catchy. However, if we are really doing this only for our own sense gratification, then what Prabhupada says is that they are to be accepted as demonic. And there's a part of me which I must confess, says that yes, they are demonic. At the same time, there are times when I do listen to them. I must confess, because sometimes it gives me a bit of an upliftment of my mood. But then I try not to, re I mean do it too much. But whenever the same music and dancing is really employed in glorifying the Supreme Lord as kirtana, and that's when you really transcend the material senses, and you really are connecting with your soul. You're connecting with the Lord. So that's where the magical connection between you and the Supreme Lord really happens. And that's why even when you have Harinam, for example, in the anywhere you go in Harinam, and definitely like in the Harinam that happens every Saturday at the Soho temple. And when I did mention this last time as well. So when you go to the West End, like you find, people are very surprised when they say, who are this bunch of, people who are like singing and dancing on the streets. But then as they start listening, and as they start repeating, the Maha Mantra, you can see how, they get transformed, even if it's for a few minutes. And then it's those moments that what we as devotees are trying to do is to create that for eternity. So we don't go back to the prison of the material world, but what we really want to do is, through our Krishna conscious activities, we truly want to transcend all of that. So that's really about music and dance. And let's move on and see what Brahmaji has next for us. So then the mentality, or the quality that he gave up, was the shining and beloved form of moonlight. And this is where we have Vishwa, Vasu, and other Gandharvas. So there are other Gandharvas who really take this. And let's ask ourselves how much we love the moonlight, isn't it? So there is so much of like romanticism that's like associated with it. And we look at it, the full moon, we look at the Purnima, and our heart, like really, like leaps up with joy when we see, the moon. Very recently, we were all trying to find, the blood moon at some point, because, we and that's when, the moon really looks its shiny best. So there is a lot of association of lots of, positive things, and those qualities were taken position by the Vishwavasu and the other Gandharvas. And moving on to text 40. And this is where there is again a change. I mean, yeah, and so you can see from the Gandharvas and the Apsaras and the Vishwavasu, the glorious Brahma. And it's very, please also, when you read these verses, also look at the qualities and how Brahmaji is being described. So, for example, he's being described as glorious here, and then he gives up his shining and beloved form, and then in 38, he laughs with with deep significance. So you can see how this entire, how he is so personally associated with this creation. And this creation, he's doing it because yeah, on the instructions of the Lord. So he's basically serving him as a most exalted devotee. And it's also good to reflect on our own experiences of doing service. And we spoke briefly about last time about how we could have obstacles that comes along the way when we are doing service. And when we start doing service for the first time in Krishna consciousness, we are very excited about it. We think, oh, I think this is really exciting. I'm serving in the School of Bhakti. I'm supporting as a technical host in one of the the courses. I'm really like it really gives me a lot of joy. And then as you go along, you realize that there are lots of operational matters. You probably are not getting along as well with one of the the volunteers for whatever reason, or you find that there is a volunteer who has promised to do something, but they probably are not for whatever reason. And then you start developing this these feelings around the services that you do. So obstacles are going to be an intrinsic part of the service. So it's very difficult to imagine doing a service, where there are no obstacles at all. And Prabhupada himself faced so many obstacles. And we know his journey. We know how difficult it has been to, for example, to build the temple of Juhu, and you surmount all those obstacles, and you can do that only by surrendering yourself to Krishna. And that's what Brahmaji did as well. When he knew, that the asuras were, coming after him, he knew that there is no one who can really help him, because he himself was very confused. He was very muddled. He did not really know. He did not completely understand the service that he was doing as well. And that probably is quite reflective of many of us, because we could say take up a service in a kitchen, and if we are doing service in the kitchen for the first time, we probably don't know how to make samosas. But then we learn, and I'm sure we make mistakes, and probably the first time we make samosas, they may not really look like samosas, but something else. But then start really improving our like our services. And that's because we have this sincere intent, sincere endeavor to please Krishna. And when we do that, then we truly find like joy. But if we really expect that services will not have obstacles, then I know that's not going to be true. And Krishna, in fact, tests us, because when he gives us obstacles in these services, it's also his way of saying how serious is like Madan in doing this. I mean, is he really committed? Is he really doing this to please me, or is he doing it because because he wants to get name and fame or whatever? So and when you start asking these questions, then your attitude towards towards doing a service also changes, and you start taking a more humble attitude towards a humble mood towards the services. So yeah, so as you can see, Brahmaji always, while he's doing this creation, he's also like reaching out, surrendering himself to the Lord. And that's something that, we should constantly be doing. So whenever we have obstacles that we face, whenever there are some emotions that we're going through, which are not very conducive for providing it the right service, then it's really time to really pray to your spiritual master, pray to Prabhupada. So, as we move on to text 40, so this again, as I mentioned, there is a change. So the glorious Brahma now starts, now he evolved from his sloth. So Brahmaji had this mentality of sloth because we are all influenced by the modes of material nature, and sloth basically means laziness. It means almost like I don't want to do anything. It's it's like maybe sleeping, for a very, very long period of time. So we do have an animal called a sloth, and I don't know if I have not seen one in real life, but I'm sure you can, Google and see some pictures of sloth. What I understand is that this particular animal is, you find them on trees, and they are extremely slow. They probably stay at the same place for a long time. And in fact, what I understand is that they grow so, I mean, they either move so slowly, or they don't do anything at all. They are so inert that sometimes moss grows in their on their body. And I'm not very sure scientifically whether that's true or not, but it just goes on to say that sloth is really laziness, and the living entities who have taken this particular quality are the ghosts and the fiends. And these ghosts and fiends are so shameless that they stand naked in front of their creator, and their hair is scattered and all over the place. And the moment you think of ghosts, and you think of fiends, you think of creatures which are really extremely ugly to look at, very unkempt, very maybe terrible looking as well. So and in fact, they was such a creation that Brahmaji himself had to close his eyes, because he could not really stand what he created. And here Prabhupada speaks about hobgoblins. I was checking this, because I mean, of course, I've heard goblins, but I was checking what's the story behind hobgoblins, and when was it used. So apparently, it was used in medieval English as a spirit, as a household spirit. Um, but a household spirit that actually helps in some way or the other. So it's quite interesting that when the term hobgoblin really came about, it was supposed to be a spirit in whatever form, but helpful. But it seems that with the rise of Christianity, there was an aspect of mischief that was put into it, and today we see that. Hobgoblins are quite mischievous creatures, and there's a famous example in Shakespeare. So I don't know if you have read *Midsummer Night's Dream*. It's a beautiful book. It's a beautiful book if you want to look at the non spiritual aspects. In that, there is there is Puck, who is the hobgoblin, and he has a role to play, which is of mischief, when he's trying to, get, the love between, the yeah. So that's hobgoblins for you, and they are also the creation of Brahma. And something which I found very interesting that Prabhupada says here is that they are not false. So I'm sure many of us, we have had this question at some point in our lives: do ghosts exist or do they not? And and here Prabhupada says that they're not false, which means that these spirits are there, and these ghosts and these goblins are around, and they do have a potency, and that potency has been, and they do have a quality, and those qualities have been taken by the mentality that Brahma has been shedding, in these verses. And what is their role? So their role is, all of them are meant. I mean, so the role of the ghosts and the hobgoblins are to put the conditioned soul into various miseries. And can you think of some of those miseries that that really comes? And I was listening to this particular lecture, and I found it quite inspiring, quite interesting. So it's by Bir Krishna Goswami Prabhu. So he was speaking about intoxication and how that really links up to ghosts and hobgoblins. And he was speaking about how we have got a gross body and a subtle body. And when we see the living entities around us, what we are really seeing in effect are the gross bodies, and that's made of the Panchabhuta, which is the which are the five elements, and that's because our senses can really see them. But what our senses cannot see are the subtle bodies, and the ghosts and the mischievous goblins are essentially subtle bodies. They are invisible, or at least they're not visible, with our with our material senses. But somehow we might be able to get a feel that presence. And sometimes when we say when we have lost a dear one, and we say, I can really feel their presence close to me. And that may be, and we don't know for sure, but that could be because they indeed are close to you. The only thing is that they are in a subtle body, and because they don't have a gross body, you can't really see them, but you may be able to feel them. So there's been a lot of research that's gone around, and there's a lot of scientific, studies that's gone around, like spirits. And then, of course, we do have, the movie Ghostbusters, which really, became very, very popular. It became a cult classic. And then even we have, like Shamyans and some of the others who, like believe that they can, that you have been possessed by spirits, and then they try to do things to, get this particular spirit out of your body. So we don't know whether whatever they do is right or not, but all it means is that Prabhupada says here is that they really put a lot of miseries to us. And hence, I think we have to be quite, they are understood to be the creation of Brahma, which means that, these ghosts and goblins do exist. It's not based on mere superstition. And it's also been done under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Now, the question that, of course, begs to be asked is, why does Supreme Lord create these? Why did he create these miseries? And that's where I do want to pick up, something that from the summary of the Bhagavatam that Keshav Maharaj has written. And there's an acronym that he uses for the first chapter, for the first canto. He calls it SLAP. And and what he says is that there is a spiritual slap, and then there is a material slap. So the spiritual slap, the material slap is one where we actually have those miseries. So um, for example, if like somebody really hurts you, or somebody like say something that makes you miserable, then those are really material slaps. But a spiritual slap is one that the Lord gives, because what he wants is, he really wants you to grow, you to come closer to him, and also fulfill your desires. And so he gives us slaps so that we can grow. And that slap can be in the form of a suffering, it can be in the form of a misery. And we have lots of examples of great devotees whose view towards suffering are very different than what typically we'll have. Like Queen Kunti, for example, she went through so much of suffering. I mean, she is suffering to see, how, how her children are being treated, how they are almost, being, identified, to be killed by their, cousins. And she lost her, husband, quite early on. So went through all of these miseries, but she still stood very steadfast in her love, yeah, for the Supreme Lord. And it's a pure love that the Supreme Lord is hoping that we would have. So so when he sends those miseries, when he sends those hobgoblins, it's really because he would like desires the best for us. And as we go towards, as we continue, so we can also see that this really comes through yawning. So yawning as a process. So whenever we yawn, it could also mean that that is probably a spirit which is in action. And it's also known as a sleep which causes drooling. And drooling is when you have like saliva coming out like unconsciously. It's not something that you have much control on. So for example, when you see when you see like movies which tries to think show people who are mad, they show this drooling, because drooling is also like considered to be a sign of insanity. And what they do is that they also say that uh, the hobgoblins and ghosts attack men who are impure, and that also is a suggestion that if you are impure, then we make ourselves more vulnerable to the attack of the hobgoblins and the ghosts. And a good example of this, again shared by Bir Krishna Goswami in one of his talks, was around intoxication, and how like when you go to a nightclub, and when you can see that everybody is trying to have a good time, and but then you can see that like in that they're trying to have a good time, but then there is a lot of like negative things which are which are in effect. So you could have like people like shouting at each other. You could have I mean, violence could increase. That could be more anger, that could be more envy, more lust, that could be going on. And these are times when, the ghosts and the hobgoblins are very active. So when you find yourself, like very intoxicated, and you are impure, and then that's a time when, you make yourself very vulnerable to, to the influence of these hobgoblins and ghosts. And and that could cause like attacks like which can be seen as insanity, because you I'm sure that like those are completely intoxicated, they hardly know what they're doing. And we know that, oh, I mean, he was drinking under the influence of alcohol, so he doesn't really know what he did. But then so there is this aspect of not knowing when you're intoxicated, and that is the delusion of intelligence that comes because you have the hobgoblins and the ghosts which are at work. And lastly, and just as we just about conclude, what Brahmaji also says is that from his own invisible form, and here the quality that Brahmaji like discards as one of humility, or is of invisibility. So he said he created the sadhyas and the pitas, and we will talk about this in a little bit more detail. But let's see if there is something in the purport to this is explained a bit more detail in the next verse, which will happen next week, next in the next class. But sadhyas and pitas are essentially invisible forms of the departed souls. And Prabhupada says here that they are also created by Brahma. So many of us may have done, may be doing Shraddha, and and that will be spoken about in a great more detail. So Shraddha is prayers that we do for your ancestors. And what you do is that what you are saying, part of the reason why you want to do the Shraddha is that you do not want your ancestors to lead subtle lives of subtle bodies, because when you lead lives of subtle bodies, you pretty much can't do anything. So you will have the intelligence, you'll have the mind, you'll have the ego, but you'll unless you have a gross body, you can't really do any karmic actions. So for you to truly make progress in Krishna consciousness, if you really want to take your Krishna consciousness, if you want to really do service, you can't really do that in a subtle body. You do need to have a gross body. And part of what our prayers are, that from Shraddha, is that when we do those prayers, we are praying that the Lord gives a gross body to the to the departed souls of your dear ones, so that they have an opportunity to carry on the spiritual journey that they left in their last birth. And so that they can continue to make the spiritual progress in their next lifetime as well, and that will take them closer to Krishna, and hopefully at some point they will break the cycle of birth and death. Well, that was, I don't think I've ever spoken so much in such a short time. So I will pause here. So just to have a quick recap. Brahmaji is continuing to create like living entities, and we see that as he creates his living entities, he's also discarding a lot of mentalities, which is important for us as well. We also learned about the theme of obstacles coming along the way, and Brahmaji constantly keeps praying to the Lord, and we also need to be seeking His mercy so that we can perform our services, with the best endeavor possible. And then we also saw that there's this duality of moods. So, Brahmaji sometimes creates the yakshas and the demons, which is the night, and sometimes he creates, the devtas and then the gandharvas. So you can see that there is this yin and the yang that's going on, and that's as per the instructions of the Lord. And he just follows the instructions. So, at one point, he laughs. At one point, he is disgusted. So you can see, Brahmaji getting a lot of very strong emotions by the creation of the beings that is created. And then where it all so creation can be quite a painful process, but it definitely it's a process of transformation. And where we really leave this, where I would like to leave us with this thought is that it's only when you completely surrender um, to Krishna, that's when you can truly not only do the services as Brahmaji has been doing, and also to come closer to him and to purify, remove some of the mentalities that we wish to discard. So that really is where we stop now. So happy to take any questions, any reflections, anything that may have resonated with you in the discussion. Sorry, not in the discussion, in the monologue.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Pati
Thank you for
Mataji.
that wonderful class, as always. Prabhuji, you made the reference in the last text about Shraddha and gross and subtle bodies. Is the subtle body not at all aware of Krishna? We are praying for them to get a material body, hopefully for the passage to another life.
Yeah.
Is that body not, is that subtle being not aware of Krishna at all?
The
Then
subtle
I
body.
ask, please God, help me, release me from this terrible state.
My understanding, that's a very good question. My understanding is that you do have the mind, intelligence, and ego, and the Lord does, create remembrance. He creates remembrance and forgetfulness. And as a subtle body, I believe, and if there's anyone in the call, please do correct me. You do have a remembrance. Uh, of I'm not sure whether you have a remembrance of your previous lifetimes, but you may remember Krishna. I'm hoping that you remember Krishna. But what you cannot do is that you cannot really do any services because you don't really have any material body to really perform the services like how we do now. But I don't know if is there anyone who might have a better explanation on this. I think it's a very interesting question. Anything that you have read, anything that you have heard in any of the lectures? So the question is, do as a subtle body, do we remember Krishna?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Not sure whether this will add anything or not, but if you're saying that we do this devotional service and we go back to Vaikuntha Lok, right? And we go Vaikuntha Lok after we die, and when we die, we have a subtle body. And if subtle body has no remembrance, even we go to Vaikuntha Lok, we don't know who Krishna is. So So subtle body goes to Vacuum lok, right? Because there is no other body.
It will go, Prabhuji, but it depends a lot on whether you have like released all your karmic debts and whether you have broken the cycle of birth and death. Otherwise, the subtle bodies will float around, and that's what the Shraddha really does. Because sorry, just give me a second because I think I'm running out of battery. So if you can just give me 2 seconds, I'll just get my charger on. Just a sec. Sorry. Thank you for that. So where was I? Yes, the subtle body does need a gross body to, like perform the activities. But you don't directly go to Vaikuntha because it really depends on whether you have completed all your karmic debts and whether you have really broken the cycle of birth and death. However, and that's why we see these subtle bodies like hovering around, and that's where they also say that um, you know uh, uh, subtle body does hover around the house that they live in, and unless they find a gross body, and there's always a time, and that time could take longer or less. In a few cases, so the Shraddha is a way by which we, through our prayers, we allow the subtle bodies to find a gross bodies. So that's really, how we pray. But we will talk about this a little bit in a little bit more detail in the next class, because the next class goes into also the purport where Prabhupada speaks about the Shraddha and how well Shraddha is performed, and I know you go to Gaya to perform the rites, and many of us we do that. However, as devotees, you don't really have to do that, and that is a reason that Prabhupada says, which I think we might not be able to do today, but it'll be done in the next class. So, Pati Mataji, I'm not sure I completely answered your question, but it's something that I will take away in terms of whether, as a subtle body, we remember Krishna or not.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. I mean, it went somewhere in explaining it. And I thought if we end up in Vaikuntha, hopefully, there will be a spiritual self and not a material body. So I think that is kind of a difference there. So
Yeah. Thank you, Mataji.
thank you, Prabhuji, for that. And just one other comment about the music and the dance that is performed as devotional service as opposed to something else as demoniac. I found the difference when I, as a fan of rock music in the past, kind of have given that up. But when I go to the Janmashtami festival at the temple, the kirtan that is done by same instruments using bass and guitar and the drums, it just feels different. The kirtan is just another level. So it is so true what that text said. So I just thought I'd add that on.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, because music and dance is such an integral part of our lives because we get naturally attracted to that. So, and we have our, like background. Each one of us has a very different liking for music and dance. But when we come to Krishna consciousness, when we come to kirtan, we find that the kirtans, they not only satisfy your material senses, but they also satisfy your spiritual soul. And that's why they have you can feel a deeper connection with the kirtans.
Yeah, it's just wonderful. Yeah, it's just one tends to gravitate towards the kirtan tent where there's a band going on. So it's just wonderful.
Indeed. You just go there, and it's good because whenever you're doing your activities, just have your headphones on and like listen to Janvi Harrison or anyone else. So
Yes.
yeah, and you can be forever on a high,
Absolutely.
on a spiritual high
Hi.
the whole day.
Yeah. You just take that away with you. You're absolutely right. Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much. So there are no more questions or reflections. Thank you so much for joining. Shailesh Prabhu, did you have something to say?
So I give a little bit of further sort of expansion to what you said. You've wonderfully answered Mataji's question. The subtle body, of course, carries with it the tendencies, the proclivities, the karmic baggage that we've accumulated. And so it depending on the consciousness of that body, of the subtle body, of how it had left and sort of exited the previous body, it will carry those tendencies, natures, proclivities, etc. Direct remembrance of Krishna depends on whether it was a devotee or not. So it depends on many aspects. It's not straightforward. The karmic issues are quite complex. It's probably the most complex law of material nature, which is how karma accumulates, it carries, etc. But for the Bhagavatam gives us examples like Bharat Maharaj, when he took the body of a deer, he could still remember Krishna, despite being in the body of a deer. So clearly that memory went with him, but because he was a devotee, he was granted the boon. For most, that doesn't happen because the consciousness is not pure and high. So it really depends on the individual and where they were in their Krishna consciousness. The higher the Krishna consciousness, the more likelihood, the ability to recall on Krishna. The lower, most materialists will not. They will actually have all the material attachments. So that's why in death, the karmakanda process requires for 13 days of bhajans and everything else done, because that subtle body that's floating around for 13 days before it finds its next body or next location is actually still karmically very attached to the family and its relationships and everything else. These are I'm talking about normal non-devotee setups. Of course, for devotees, the exit is very different, and they're taken by Vishnu Dutas, etc. So it's a very different exit. But in the normal course of events, that's why all the karmakandi ceremonies are done in such a way to try and release the attachment of that soul and that subtle body from the material entanglement it has with his family and house and everything else that's there, to try and send it away without the attachment. Otherwise, it will come back into that family. I think I heard Bhakti Rasamrita Swami said that it's said in one of the shastras that if an individual dies with strong attachment to a particular family, he will take birth back in that family, perhaps as an ant or a cat or a dog, or not necessarily even as a human, depending on the karma that's been accumulated. But that attachment has a result. So long-winded attempt at trying to give a little bit of background. I hope I didn't confuse more than clarified. Sorry, bro.
No, not at all, Shailesh, but I think that's really very good. Just to sum up what you mentioned, so it really depends. I think that's what is a typical question answer of any economist, and in this case as well, because we are at various stages in our spiritual development, and how close we are to breaking the cycle of birth and death. So it's not a very easy answer. So like Bharat Maharaj could have who remembers Krishna, to someone who has desires which has been purely material sense gratification focused, so that would probably not remember Krishna as much. But then we as we hope, and that's where we always pray for Krishna's mercy to to deliver these souls. So thank you all so much. And would somebody like to lead the Vaishnav prayer before we conclude? Shri Kishori Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you. Let's all pray together. Vanchakapatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for a wonderful class. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Madan
everyone.
Prabhu. Thank you very much. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.